Hi, my name's Chris and I live in Australia, and today I'm going to talk about how the left wing of politics has changed drastically in this country. There's been some recent police reports coming out through statements from the police where they have talked about the recent protest rallies in Australia. We've been having some big March for Australia rallies and then counter-protests coming in from the left side of politics, the far left wings, causing problems. And it was a relief. It was a relief for the first time on the mainstream media. We had the police come forward and say it is the left causing problems. It is the left bringing the violence. It is the left causing absolute hell for our police out there. It's the left coming in to be violent to other peaceful protests. And it was a relief from the come forwards. But I'll say it was brave of the police finally to step forwards and say where the problem was coming from, because it goes against what our government, what their government line is. And they're trying to protect the left. They're trying to mollycoddle the left. And they try to focus in on saying all protests, but it's not all protests. It is the left protests causing the problems. So we're going to watch the clips from the police, and then we'll start talking a little bit deeper in it from there.
This is what was thrown at police today, and I think Melbourne has had a gutful. I look on the social media streaming platforms of some of these issue-motivated groups that are saying police used excessive force. The fact was, these were being thrown at police. Bottles filled with shards of glass were being thrown at the police. Rotten fruit was being thrown at police. Bins were put on fire. Flags were on fire. And I think, really enough's enough. The disruption to Melbourne, to the general public who want to come into our fine city, the disruption to businesses, we really need to find an answer of what we do. These are people who come, they're not coming to protest. I heard the Chief Commissioner talk about protesters having compassion and care for others. This is certainly not what has been displayed today. People came to pick a fight with the police. The people that came to pick the fight with police were the issue-motivated groups on the left. I can tell you that the March for Australia group, they were peaceful, they were engaging, they listened to our instructions, they did what they were told, and they protested by example. The other group, and there were a number of issue-motivated groups known to us, we knew they were coming. We had to deploy hundreds of police. These hundreds of police, not only today, but the man hours and the weeks of planning, preparation, engagement with these people, and the impact on Victoria Police resources at a time when we should be having police on the front line looking at community safety, it appalls me really. And I'm being really strong, and I show you the rocks because I think the public need to see what the police are being targeted with. We deployed force against these people, and rightly so in my view. It was a force at the level nearly that we had at the Land Forces Defence expedition or exhibition earlier in the year. We had police injured. I have a sergeant, a female sergeant who went to hospital with a suspected broken hand because she was kicked at. I have a member with a nasty gash on his leg from Corio. We are drawing police resources from all around the state to police this protest activity in Victoria, in Melbourne, and it happens every week without fail. Now, there are people that legitimately come to protest, but there are people who don't. And I think the Chief Commissioner is reviewing our response to how we protest and what our model looks forward, because to me, and I'm a senior member of Victoria Police, I've been in this organisation 39 years, the impost and the impact it's having on the members working every weekend and on frontline community safety is massive. So I just ask you, it's not a small rock. We had our port members who come out with their riot gear and their shields. These rocks were cracking some of those shields today. So they're being thrown with force, they're being thrown with the view to harm our members. They come, they're cowards, They come in face coverings, they come in masks, they come with hoodies on, they hide behind each other. You can see them. Today they have the umbrellas up, they duck down behind the water-filled barriers, they duck down, they pull the rocks out of their bags and they throw them as hard as they can at the police. And it's got to stop.
Organisers of the anti-fascist element of yesterday's protest put out a statement late yesterday saying that police attacked members of their march. What's your response to that interpretation of what happened yesterday?
Nobody believes you. You have no credibility. Maybe turn on the TV and have a look at the pictures. They make your statements out to be quite false, to be quite honest. Look, I think the majority of Victorians see this for what it is. They're sick to the back teeth of this sort of behaviour, this sort of rubbish from these groups. If you're so peaceful, if you're just trying to make a peaceful point, why are you coming with bags of railway ballast? Why are you throwing bottles with glass shards in them? Why are you throwing fruit, eggs, projectiles at the police? Why are you burning things in the streets, rubbish bins, effigies of police? Serious? Do those actions match those words or commitments? It's utter rubbish. And we should start calling this out for what it is, to be quite frank. These people should have no credibility in our society. None whatsoever. And we should all stop, governments included, facilitating their bad behaviour by pandering to them with our language.
The left organises to march onto other citizens' protests in this country, other peaceful protests in this country. They organise to march violently onto it to intersect it. It's the left who throws petrol at other people. It's the left throwing the rocks. It's the left throwing other objects. It's the left burning flags. It's the left screaming that they hate this country. It's the left screaming at other protests. It's the left who are screaming at our elderly, at our children, calling them fascist Nazis, telling them to go kill themselves. Imagine screaming at children to go kill yourselves. That's the left. That's what they're doing.
We are behind the enemy lines of this genocide, and it is our duty to attack the belly of this colonial imperialist beast at every opportunity. If you are watching this, you can do what we have done. Place half a slab of fire starter into each paper bag. Place one bag under the front and one under the back of the tire. Do this for both of the tires on the fuel cap side of the car. Be mindful of fingerprints and DNA. Set the bag on fire and run. Every colony will burn. Land back and liberation will grow from our ashes. Death to Israel. Death to Australia. Death to America. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land.
It's the left who are firebombing businesses. It's the left who are firebombing churches. It's the left who are celebrating the targeting of Israeli small business owners in this country and destroying their businesses. It's the left doing this. The left are the ones screaming in hate to shut down any conversation that's not in their little echo chamber, whereas more conservative people are wanting to have the conversation, have the discourse. Let's bring it to the light and try to find some middle ground here. But it's the left screaming, not listening, yelling through people. If it's not in their echo chamber, they don't want to hear it. There are a lot of people falling into these far left groups who are mentally unwell and they need professional help. And they're getting pulled further and further down these rabbit holes, and they gas each other up and they get into these echo chamber hypercycles, and they just rev them up, and then send them out in public like a fucking tornado. And then the public has to deal with their radical ideology. And these people, a lot of them, mentally sick. They need help. It's the far left who are receiving money from overseas to fund social discohesion in this country. And you know what? I'll throw the Australian Federal Police, I'll throw ASIO a bone here. Okay, guys, go look at all these far left organisations, put them all up on a map them out, see how they all link up to each other, and then start to systemically go through their books, not just like their profit loss statements, but their books of where they're receiving donations from. And start to look which countries, which areas these donations are coming from the donations. Because you know what? It's not cheap. They've been running national protests every city around the country for 2 years straight. It's not cheap to put these protests on. The money's coming in from somewhere. And if that money is coming in from bad actors from foreign states to create social discohesion within Australia, well, you know what? That should be shut down very quick. ASIO, Australian Federal Police, get on top of it, okay? Because that money's coming in. I'd sleep a lot better at night as an Australian citizen if I knew it wasn't money coming in from bad actors overseas to fund the decay of our country. Just as an idea of some of the money floating around, guys, so for a campaign manager for some of these groups, they're being paid over $100,000 a year as a full-time job. There is millions coming into these groups. And my question is, where are these millions coming from? Recently, ASIO's done press releases and announcements about foreign funding coming in from bad actors via proxies to create violence in Australia, to create hate in Australia, which included firebombing of businesses, attacks on Jewish people in Australia. I would just like to see ASIO and the Australian Federal Police do a little bit more of a widespread look and maybe have a look at the funding for some of these organisations that have been funding rallies for 2 years straight across multiple capital cities every weekend. I just want to know, where's the money coming from? I was out at the March for Australia in Brisbane last weekend. Here's the difference from the far left to what Australians are actually doing right now. At the March for Australia, we thanked the police. We thanked them for being there. We thanked them for their time. They said that we were model protesters. We were good. We were well behaved because we didn't turn on the police. The police were not our enemies because we know as Australians that the police are part of our community. They're there to protect and service, and we're not going to turn on our police just for trying to protect us from far left radicalists coming in to try and hurt our women, our children, our elderly, as they march with a flag for the country that they grew up in, the country that they love, or the country that they came to build a life here and to protect and contribute to. The police were protecting the Australians from the far left radicalists. Because at the end of the day, the police are Australians too, and Australians don't turn against Australians. Now, I'm in the social media space and I get attacked all the time from the far left in my comments. It always happens. Every video, there's always a couple come through. And the thing is, I just want to try to communicate across, is that the left is not the same as it was 15 years ago. It has changed, and I'd say it's changed for the worse. Across my videos, I talk about wealth inequality, I talk about housing affordability, I talk about taxing the giant corporations. These are all left-leaning ideologies, but because the left, or the radical left, has gone a kilometre to the left. Now, these left-leaning ideologies are now falling, to centre-right, even right-leaning a little bit. Whereas back in the day, 15 plus years ago, these were left-leaning ideologies. But because they've radicalised so hard and ran so far in that direction, it's moved that Overton window across. It's shifted out the spectrum on it to now people who are left are now sitting in the centre, centre-right, centre-left. So it's shifted. I talk about a lot of the things that were traditional left more than 15 years ago, but now because I add nationalism into it, putting Australia first, suddenly I'm right wing. I'm a hard right lunatic according to the far left. So my message to the people of Australia who are floating around that far left circles right now, the ones who are screaming absolutely radicalised stuff, the ones telling you to black block up, the ones say, black blocking, for those who don't know, is when you put all black on, put the black balaclava on, black block up. For those telling you to do that, and you get an uncomfortable feeling in your gut thinking, I don't really want to do this, this doesn't feel right to me. Well, trust your gut. Just take a minute and think, what are your values? Not the group that you're associating with values, but what are your values as an individual? Critically think for yourself. Just block out the noise, the screaming around you, that saying you will be ostracized if you don't 100% believe in every piece of doctrine that we're screaming right now, because they're acting like a cult. But just think for yourself. What feels right to you? What are your beliefs? And does this line up with me black blocking up, running out in public and throwing bricks at people? I'm just asking, take a minute. Write down your beliefs on a piece of paper. What do you believe in as a person? Not the wider group. Just write it down, take some stock. And if it doesn't align or some of these things that people are screaming out around you, if it doesn't align with them telling you to go out in public and be violent, throw rocks at police, to scream you're a fascist Nazi, go kill yourself to the elderly, the children out in public, if it doesn't feel right to you, maybe it's time to start to distance yourself from that a little bit. Just move a little bit away from these radicalised groups. There are plenty of other communities out there, guys. There's the traditional left community still out there that are about the environment. There's centre lefts, there's a centre, then there's the centre right. There's all communities around this stuff. And many of them will share your beliefs that you've written down on that piece of paper, but they won't share some of these absolutely extreme far leftist beliefs. I guess the point I'm trying to get at for the individual watching out here who's ready to write down, fuck you, Chris, you fucking fascist Nazi cunt. For those out there watching and ready to do that, just take a second, think about it. Because the rabbit hole is deep, and that rabbit hole to that far left ideology, or even the far right ideology, them rabbit holes are steep, they're slippery, and once you start sliding down them, it's hard to get out of it. So just think before you start to slide down these rabbit holes. What do you believe in? I'll leave you with this last clip through. This is from Drew Hutton. He was one of the founding members of the Greens Party back in the 90s, and him and Bob Brown, founding the Greens Party up, they were fantastic environmentalists. So they really focused on conservation of Australia and its nature, and that's where the Greens Party founded from. And I think they did some fantastic work around that. I think the Greens Party truly stood for something at one point. But this is Drew talking about how he got kicked out of the Greens Party. He's been removed from the party he was a founder of because it's changed. The left is not what it used to be. So have a watch of this. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.
What's most worrying is that this represents a massive change for the Greens. This is a transition from the sort of party that I founded, Bob Brown and I and others founded back in 1992, the Australian Greens. We felt we had an historic mission to help move the world to an ecologically sustainable footing. That's changed. A cult mentality has moved into the Greens. A cult faction has moved into the Greens and taken over key positions in the party. Committee positions, leadership positions, delegates positions, and these people are policing, enforcing a rigid, doctrinaire, authoritarian view of policy, especially with regard to gender issues. And I took exception to that. Now I find that the enemy of free speech that I'm up against is not a right-wing government, it's a left-wing political party that I happen to belong to, and that in fact I founded. So I think it's worthwhile to fight. Democracy has always been really important to me. It's one of the four great pillars of green politics, and I've always lived by it. And I'm not going to back down in the face of a party which has changed its whole character to one that is no longer respectful of free speech, and in fact is breaching its own basic principles. Democracy is one of the key principles of green politics. They no longer stand for it. There's a cult that's taken it over. They are profoundly anti-democratic, they're profoundly authoritarian, and they ascribe to a dogma that is clearly unacceptable to most Australians.